Hello and welcome back to Algebra 1, Section 1.3. This is part 2 of the series, and we are going to go ahead and start looking at multiplying and dividing real numbers a little bit more in detail. Here are some examples on how we can use the property that we learned earlier. Remember, a negative times a negative is a positive. A positive times a positive is a positive. And if you have a negative times a positive, you end up with a negative. So let's go ahead and look at this in action. Let's say that we have negative 12 times 5. So what is negative 12? Well, negative 12 is a negative number. What is 5? 5 is a positive. So for our operations or our justification, we would say negative times positive is equal to a negative number. And then we just do the arithmetic normally. 12 times 5 is 60, so this would be 60, and because a negative times a positive is a negative, we would turn it into a negative 60. Now that one was a little bit too easy. Let's try something with a fraction. Let's try 8 times negative 5 over 4. Now you'll note that negative 5 over 4 is indeed something called an improper fraction, but being a mathematician, I'm going to tell you right now, improper fractions are the way to go. You don't want to see something like 1 1/4 in your work, because if you see 1 1/4, you're going to automatically assume that's 1 times 1/4, which is 1/4, which is totally different than 5/4. So we don't want to use quote, proper fractions, unquote. We want to use the improper ones. Now, if you remember our trick from before, the arithmetic will be a little bit easy. But first, we have to justify what our sign is going to be. This one is a positive number, because 8 is positive, times a negative number, because negative 5 over 4 is negative. And a positive times a negative gives us a negative output. So we would then do our arithmetic. 8 divided by 4 is 2. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. So our output from this would be a negative 10. Time to throw you a curveball. What about with division? Well, we know that multiplication and division are almost the same thing. When we're looking at fractions, you would just take a number, you would flip and multiply. Just flip and multiply. Hopefully you remember that pun. So when we're looking at division here, it's going to be the same thing, right? If I looked at 4 divided by a negative 2, well, if I use the same principle as before, I can say that negative 2 is really a fraction in disguise. Negative 2 is really negative 2 over 1. Because you can take any whole number, put it over 1, and it remains the same. Now that it's in fraction form, you flip and multiply. So I will take this negative 2 over 1, I will flip it, and I will multiply it. So now it becomes 4 times negative 1/2. Now we know the rule about multiplication. If we have a positive, if my computer will let me. Be nice, computer. Thank you. A positive times a negative. Well, we've got that right above hand. It's also a negative. So if we have a positive times a negative, what do you think a positive divided by a negative would be? Well, if they're the same thing, of course it's going to be a negative number. 4 divided by 2 is 2, times negative 1 is negative 2. Let's not forget to box our answers. Shame on me for forgetting those. Oh well. Next up, let's continue with this trend. Since we know that division is just a flipped and multiplied fraction, we can say multiplication is division. So let's look at another case, one where we really don't like the form that our fraction's in. Let's take a look at negative 4 divided by 9 and 1/4. Now, you remember what I said a few moments ago about improper fractions being the way to go? This is no exception. When we have this additional piece, it makes it impossible for us to just flip and multiply. So what we need to do is we need to turn our whole number into a fraction of the same denominator. So that way we can add it and bring it up top. So to do that, we would just do a really cool trick. We take 4, we multiply it by 9, and then we add it to the 1. So when I do that, I now have 4 times 9 is 36, plus 1 is 37. Now I have negative 4 divided by 37 over 4. Well, I think we remember the trick for this one. You just flip and multiply. So now we have negative 4 times 4 over 37. This case is a negative number times a positive number. Since we have different signs, you will have a negative output. So we go negative 4 divided by 37. They have nothing in common, so I can't really do anything. But I can do negative 4 times 4, which gives me 16. So I have negative 16 divided by 37. And now we will look at some more stuff on part 3. See you again soon. Good luck and have fun.